So sometimes people wonder why didn't I get a girl? Because you have to be the Lauren London. There's a lot of girls like the news reporter, but like she is very pretty. Like she gets a Blackberry pass. But the thing is, she does people. That's when people say our eye. You see, so some people will say, "Oh, he has to be accepted," but people will say she's pretty, but she doesn't really look like Beyonce. You see, so when I was mentioning to Sophia, I mentioned if she had a personality, if imagine if Baby Bing had a personality like her, or she kind of reminds me of the news reporter, but if she was light skinned, a light skinned version with that personality, it would be the Tick. Because there's a lot of girls like the girl at the Walgreens. It's a lot of news reporter girl, but to make me Tick, you have to be to make me smile. You have to be the Lauren London, and then to go past that, you would have to even do the thing, because some people can't be found or mentioned in the corner of the angle of where a lot of people want to see in secret, who are not part of my tribe, not part of my nation. Even Jared and the people and the students and the people at the hospital, in different hospitals, different neighbors and Mexican pastor, they want to get offended because, yeah, the girl will want to convert people to Mexican, but that's when Cortez come, because there's other girls too who can convert legions of men. But I'm not nasty because my wife be watching, so she'll say, Maurice, please don't, and I won't do it out of respect for my wife. So if it's a thick bone, if it's another bone, you do have to realize that it's a certain way. But the reason why I mentioned Sophia is because if she wore a headband by the Ravenswood, that would be like a crossroads of the Mount Rushmore, and then the lions on the bed in this phone video when I was watching it, because eventually I'll go down to the last video, and then I'll talk about like how different type of girls, like AK is pretty, but she doesn't do the Sophia, you see. So when people say our sometimes people will say, to protect themselves. Some people will get a pass, but some people don't even relate to that realm, you see. So Beyonce, she says, oh yeah, my girl has to be the difference. She has to be sure that she sees. So Beyonce will be like, I see. But the thing is that she doesn't have the personality of Ibuki, you see. Very pretty. So she'll have one kid. She'll be like, what do you do, Maurice? What do we do? Because if someone had a headband, like, it changes everything. Because, like, they'll have the game time. Especially when people have one child, they'll say, I want to raise my child, but they don't want to put him in the DHS. They don't want to get him into the school system, because like that's how women like raise their children. And if it's only one child, but they'll be bookie with a lot of people, so they'll try to do a daycare. And it's like, what happens with that? The child doesn't grow, and the child takes the mother's life. And it's like, the mother loved the child, but like he takes the life of the church, and the church is not educated by the boy because he can't prove anything. So it's like it comes to the point where it could be Bill gets his identity stolen, the American Chicago gets their identity stolen. So I even wrote back. I mentioned 45, 48 in this video, and then I mentioned like a Hutch was from when I was riding back from when I had my moped, but I think he died before I had my moped. So it's like. Someone like Tonio, he could live around the corner, and he said, "Oh, I'm waiting for the girl." So eventually, I would mention doing the performance at Truman, and it would be cracking. You see, in a different way. So my girl was definitely different, because there's a lot of girls with the news reporter, but to make me smile, it can't be a temporary girl. It has to be a lifelong beauty. But now you have all type of Mexicans, individuals, neighbors, hospitals trying to harass me, big funky kitten girl. But I already knew that God was going to bring me out. But I didn't know that in the environment, if people is bit by a lion or a snake, they become the nature of that snake. But it's like, if I go to the hospital and people are saying they're going to send him to a clinic with people with muffy feet, and a psych behavioral hospital, you have people with saliva drooling, big faces, hair not cut. So it's like it gets wild because people will try to prove me to those people and link me with the nurses in hospital when I wanted to get married. And some funky kidding people will say, oh, I'm not black. I get to do what I want to God's people, because they'll say that they want to steal my identity and wanted to attack me in a certain way with the neighbors when I don't even know these people. But they'll say, oh, we wanted to attack him and harass him because they got offended and jealous of my girl and wife. So at what point did people say that he used to look, he said he used to look handsome before he got attacked again in Desplaines after 7 years no hospital, but yet he was hospital in 2017 after 2016 was the last time, and then he had his moped in 2018, had him been hospitalized all the time. He never had been hospitalized at a time when he had a car, never had an interview, because people were saying when they rose against him in the first 12 years before that, he wasn't even in his 20s, and he wasn't even 20 years after 1990, before 7/11 2015 was what before Romy worked, after the other one was built, before it could relate to. Some things were built between presidencies. Some hospitals were after others when other people from a different time of life wasn't part of a update, and different other things that already happened in 2012. Hospitalization before Virginia, before C4 already happened before Desplaines, but Heartland had to happen to C4, and there was a president, a mayor in between that, before people tried to go back to the past, before there's about to be a new president election, just like 2016, after Biden was president, after George Bush, but Lori Lightfoot was president, was mayor after Obama, but before Obama's vice president was in office. So at what point did someone say there was no law and the Mexicans could just rape him, or there was no government and the management can just link him to the hospital and to the police and to the clinic and say, we want to be seen, because they weren't the management in a different year of Steve's house, but they were alive before Madden 2015, and they were alive before other people were management in a different time, in a different place. People could have been managers for a long time, but there was mayors and presidents when I lived somewhere else at a different time, but the management was here the whole time. Presidents still existed in this time frame, before people try to link me to a desert or a crossroad of a different management or a different governor. That was management in between my other houses that were different than the management now. But they'll say that they wanted to relate to the present of organized stalking with neighbors that didn't exist in 2004, organized stalking before I got my 2017 micro center computer.